What's up, people? In this video, I am going to explain to you how I cured my depression with nootropics, drugs, and exercise. Exercise, this could also be like lifestyle changes, like for example, nutrition, right? But title can only be so long. Gotta fit like as many clickbait terms in there as possible. So basically, this is my story of my experiences with depression. And how I managed to get them to go away multiple times. I've been depressed many times. I'll tell you all about it. And kind of what are the things that I do or I did and I continue to do to make sure that they stay away. So yeah, this is just me. I'm not a doctor. I mean, I think this is good advice for most people, but I'm not allowed to say that apparently because I'll get sued or it's against the law. I don't really know. But disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. This is just my experience. I'm not saying you should try anything, but like I kind of am, even though I'm not a doctor. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Only these things. Wellbutrin, okay, it's an antidepressant that I take. I love it. I'll tell you more about it later. Exercise, obviously when you exercise, your body releases endorphins. Feel amazing. Eating healthy food, if you somehow don't believe that eating healthy food will make you feel better than eating unhealthy food, number one, you're an idiot. Number two, just try it. Take my word for it, just try it. That I can tell you to try. Number four, limiting your eating frequency. This is good if you are eating the right foods, but we'll get into that more later. Basically, eat one meal a day is my recommendation. Number five, quitting a job that I hated. This many experiences of me quitting jobs that I hated led to my depression going away. Number six, getting a hobby. This is also very good or it helped me a lot. Fucking get rid of that shit like ASAP. Number seven, taking nootropics for focus and mood. Okay, this probably will be very interesting to you guys because, it's human nature to like want the easy solution and to be able to just kind of take a pill to make everything better, basically. Like, who doesn't that appeal to? 8 is TRT or testosterone replacement therapy. I have not tried this, but I thought I would include this in here because from what I've read, it seems to be very effective at like improving your overall mood and just kind of like getting you out of the house and fucking doing shit. And number 9, sunlight. Get some fucking sun. All right. My experience with depression. All right. So I've been depressed many, many times, right? I don't want to go into like every single time, but like high school, college, fucking the army, after the army, multiple jobs, right? You just get hit with this like wave of like cannot do anything, don't want to do anything, don't see the point to doing anything. Like, I think it's kind of interesting how they call it depression because you actually feel like you are being depressed, right? What does being depressed mean? To depress something means to push it down, okay? If you are depressing it. Right. And that's actually kind of what it feels like when you are depressed is you actually feel depressed, like you are being pushed down. It's one of these things that like when you're not depressed, it's easy to kind of give recommendations as far as what you should do. But when you are, it's very hard to actually take action on those things because it's like somebody sucked all the power out of your body. So anyway, I'm no stranger to this. We can like have a depression competition and you could be like, well, actually, I'm way more depressed than you because I can't put a headset on and make a YouTube video. Whatever. Anyway, this is my experience. You can take it if you want. Anyway, like I said, didn't want to do anything, didn't see a point to trying, and I hated myself for not trying also. It's not like I was totally cool with the fact that like I wasn't doing anything with my life and I hated my life and I felt like I wasn't like, achieving my true potential or at least trying to achieve my true potential. I hated myself for that because I think we all grow up with goals and aspirations and we want to at least try. But when you don't try, you're not trying. You're not. Most people, if they're depressed, they hate themselves and they know they're not trying and they also hate that about themselves too. It's not necessarily that they're losers, let's just say, or that they're not achieving their potential. It's that they're not actually trying to achieve. That kind of gives you that kind of self-hatred. I felt very stuck. I remember one time, I talk about this a lot, but when I was living in LA in like 2015, 2016, I wasn't happy where I was. I was driving for Uber. I had nothing going on in my life really interesting to speak of. I had no pet projects. I didn't really have a job, just driving for Uber. I had these yoga classes that I would go to. And it wasn't like fine if you're like in the third world and like you're in danger of being conquered by some neighboring tribe, fine. I guess that seems like a good life and good set of problems. But for me, I don't know, I had higher expectations and I felt stuck because on the one hand, my life was good enough that I had my like creature comforts. Like I could go do these yoga classes, which were amazing for me. Um, I was playing lots of video games that I enjoyed playing, or so I thought. And I had access to plenty of like organic, healthy food, which surprisingly is very important to me. I guess not surprisingly, but that it does it for me. I don't know. And I couldn't make any decisions, right? So I felt stuck. I couldn't make a decision. I was always thinking in my mind, wow, there's this other thing I want to do. I really want to do it, but I'm scared to make that choice. I'm scared to like go through the uncomfortable process of breaking off from my current routines to actually go do this thing. This has happened many times when I've been in jobs that I felt like I couldn't leave, even though I really wanted to leave. Like I hating the job for like months at a time, but I just couldn't bring myself to leave for whatever reason. I just felt stuck. And I didn't want to give up my guilty pleasures, right? So I mentioned earlier, like things like, for me, it was like smoking weed for a while. I think when you smoke weed on a regular basis, like it's kind of glamorized in Hollywood now, or like in, rappers and shit. But like, I think for most people, when you smoke weed, it's not really that enjoyable. It's like the anticipation of actually smoking is fun. You're like, oh, I can't wait. After work, I'm going to go home and get high. But then when you actually get high, you're like not thinking straight, get super paranoid. You eat too much, you go to bed, you're like pass out, you're like exhausted. You don't even really sleep that well. I didn't want to give those up. Also video games. I used to play 6 hours of Dota every night, and like I would always look forward to playing. But it was rarely an overall positive experience for me, where when I turned off the game, I was like, wow, that was so good. I loved that. I feel like a better person now. I was always drained. I was always exhausted. I was always cranky. I was always irritable. And I would always think to myself, I can't believe I just spent 6 hours of my life doing that instead of something else. And it would just kind of remind me that I was wasting my time. Okay, depression is a fake disease. This, regardless of whether or not you think this is true, I encourage you to assume that it is true for the rest of this presentation and use that assumption as a frame through which you can look at my story and all of these potential solutions for depression. Is it really a fake disease? I don't know. Chemical changes happen, science, blah, blah, blah. But like at the end of the day, if you believe, which you should, that you have a choice every second of every day to do whatever you want, then it's as simple as making the decision to do something that will help lift you out of the depression. Okay, so that aside, everybody feels depressed or anxious all the time. Okay, everybody has this like background feeling of things not being good all the time. Every human being on the planet. Okay, so like, what's the difference between that and depression? Is if you let it get to you, if you acknowledge it for being a medical condition. And I was clinically, diagnosed with, I was diagnosed by a doctor with clinical depression. Like all of a sudden you're like branded. You know what I mean? And it might not seem like a lot, but when you have that mentality, like it's hard to escape that. Same thing with this eating disorder shit, which I don't want to get into now. However, similar to the eating disorder shit, when you label it, you make it part of your identity. You say, I have anxiety, I have depression. If you like loudly proclaim these things because you've kind of accepted it as a part of your identity, it's much harder to change later on because that's just who you are. It's not, for example, if let's say instead of saying I'm depressed, if you said I'm currently making choices in my life that are making it hard for me to be happy, one of those accepts responsibility. The other one is just a condition that you have medically. Normally bad feelings will lead to change, right? If you are actually so uncomfortable where you have a moment where you're like, I can't do this anymore, I need to change something, then you will change. Okay, but the problem with depression is that a lot of people look to comfort themselves with things like food or video games or porn or whatever, all these things which are very accessible. So you are kind of able to mask your bad feelings, which obviously is not good. All right, I said this already. You love your disease. Okay, this kind of has to do with this, right? Or what I said just now, where, depression, like if you're depressed or anxious or you have some fucking disease, whatever it is, a quote unquote mental illness, then you become comfortable with those symptoms because those symptoms are a known quantity. Okay, and I think to deny that traditionally like negatively perceived conditions, let's call them, like this also have positive benefits, I think is a mistake, and like you're intentionally blinding yourself because you don't want to admit it. There's this whole like victim mentality thing going on with depression, even though you might hate yourself and blah blah blah. I think you should acknowledge the fact that you like your disease and quote unquote disease, and you like the way your life is right now, because if you didn't like it, you would change something. Okay, because if you didn't like it, if I take your hand and I put it on a hot stove, are you going to keep your hand there even though it's burning you? No, you're going to fucking pull that shit away because you don't like it. It's kind of the same thing, but you have enough of these creature comforts that are like keeping you there. Okay, you're not bored, you're boring. Depressed people are always bored, okay? But if you don't have anything interesting in your life that you're doing, you are going to be not only bored, but you are going to be boring. Again, I can only use myself as an example, but like one thing that I've been working on a lot lately is this YouTube channel. I've been putting out lots of videos every day, regardless of what you think of my upload frequency. It's keeping me busy, and I work on this from 8 o'clock in the morning till like 2 in the afternoon, and then I'll take a break, I'll go exercise, I'll come back, I'll eat, and then I will work on it for another hour or so, maybe 2 hours in the evening. So it's keeping me very busy, along with all of the other things that I'm doing, which I will get to probably soon. Okay, so what are some of the symptoms, I guess, of depression? Generally, like overall mopiness. You don't want to do anything. This happened to me a lot, where I would have an idea for wanting to do something and be like, oh wow, like I remember one time I started an a weed Instagram account with a friend of mine. We were going to make a weed magazine, and I like started this Instagram account. I would start it and then quit. I quit like, I don't know, a week later or something. I had all these projects that I was always starting, always quitting, which, to be fair, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm magically cured of depression now and now I like finish everything that I start. Of course not. Like, no. But it prevented me from trying a lot of things, because basically I would think to myself, oh, I want to do this, but what are some of the reasons why I can't? And I would let that inner dialogue kind of talk me out of it. And I think another symptom of this is to have goals but never even try. Like, it's one thing to want to do something and then start and then quit immediately or within a week, but it's another thing to not try at all, right? And you also hate yourself for not trying, right? Many times I've been in situations where, like, what's a simple one? I guess being back in LA last time, I had all this stuff that I wanted to do, all these like potential ideas that I had going around in my head. Like, I wanted to like keep my YouTube channel going back then, but I didn't try. I didn't do it, and I hated myself for that. I wanted to like go back to Australia and work and save money and then go traveling again, but I didn't do it, and I hated myself for that. You love being depressed. Okay, so like, not to harp on this anymore, and this is like something that you probably don't realize, but I don't think people like secretly think to themselves, haha, I love being depressed, I'm going to try and stay depressed as long as possible. But I think that you should acknowledge that there are positive effects from being depressed, which are consistency. You're not risking anything by being depressed, and you are allowed to indulge pretty much with no boundaries into all kinds of things to alleviate your depression, like food, like porn, like video games, like watching YouTube obsessively. Those are all positive things, right? You perceive them as positive things, and in order to get over your depression, you are going to have to give those things up. And most people, I think, subconsciously are not ready to do that, because they cannot comprehend the comparative joy and satisfaction of not being depressed, because their only source of joy and satisfaction comes from their like temporary comforts. Okay, so let's talk about some of the solutions right now. Sorry, I need this coffee. Wellbutrin. I started taking Wellbutrin in 2002-ish. I've told the story before, but I took it for basically like a year or maybe 2 years. And I got out of high school. I went to university, failed every single class, was too depressed to fucking even go to class. I was just like sitting around smoking weed, wasn't working out, wasn't doing anything. So I basically came back home, moved back in with my parents. They sent me to a psychiatrist. The guy put me on Wellbutrin like right away after like 5 minutes of talking to me. And I thought he was just an asshole at first, but I started taking it. And one of the things that I noticed is that when I went back to school, it made it easy for me to go to class and take notes, which I'd never been able to do. I'd never fucking taken notes in my life, but give me a couple, give me 300 milligrams of Wellbutrin, and I go into class, sit in the front row, take out my notebook, and take notes the entire time, and actually pay attention, and actually listen, and actually kind of be engaged in the class. I was like raising my hand, never did that in my entire life. Another cool thing that Wellbutrin does is it helps me in the gym a lot. That same kind of like unconscious, spacey, I know I should be doing this, so I am going to do it, even though it feels completely effortless that I'm doing it. The same way that applies to note taking, in my opinion, also applies to exercising. Because like I said, when I came back from college, I was super depressed, wasn't working out, and I started taking Wellbutrin, ended up going back to the gym. And I remember I was like lifting the weights. I was like, this is so easy. I'm like not even trying to do this. I mean, the weight was heavy, but it was easy for me to do it. Another thing is that I didn't write this on here, but it improves your verbal fluency. Like when I was driving for Uber, so basically I took Wellbutrin for about 2 years and then stopped. And then I stopped until I was like, I don't know, 33 or something. It's like back when I lived in LA again. I guess a lot of my examples are from living in LA. Maybe I was like super depressed at that time. But anyway, I was driving for Uber, and you know how it is. You're an Uber driver. Sometimes you chat with your passengers, whatever. So I noticed that when I started taking the Wellbutrin, my chatting ability became much more, I was funnier. I was cracking more jokes. Like the right words came to me much easier without me having to think about it. So it really just kind of like makes your life effortless. It is prescription in the United States. As far as I know, you are allowed to import up to 3 months for personal use, but it's so easy to get a prescription and cheap that like, why wouldn't you just go to your doctor and ask him about it? So highly recommend you look into that. In my opinion, that's like a non-negotiable for me. I could not live without it. Exercise, another non-negotiable. Like I don't know if I have to like sell you guys on the idea that exercise will make you less depressed. Like obviously it will. If there's some people out there who somehow don't believe that, I don't know. Like I kind of question if you actually want to get better. Because to be in that level of denial, to say that like exercising won't make you feel better, I don't know. That's like, do you actually want to get better? Anyway, so for me, I've always pretty much been fit and healthy. Of course, I have had periods of my life where I don't train, but I've always been conscious of the fact that after a good session, I just feel much more at peace with the world. Exercise does release endorphins. In my experience, this effect is the most pronounced when you do weightlifting, although I will give an honorable mention to Muay Thai and boxing, because in those training sessions, generally you do pad work with the trainer, which involves extended periods of max effort. So by the time you're done, you're completely exhausted. And, they say a tired dog is a good dog. So like, you wear yourself out as a result of exercising, you're going to just be much, more stable mentally. Plus you get to punch and kick things. You get to get all of your aggression out. It's amazing. Exercise also makes you more attractive, and being more attractive, you could make the argument, will alleviate your depression somewhat as well. Just because you will kind of instinctively be constantly comparing yourself to other people and, making, I guess, the judgment that you look better than them. Exercise also encourages you to eat healthier food, because when you are exercising, you will notice the effect that food has on your body more profoundly than if you do not, right? If you try to train after eating M&Ms and fucking Oreos, you're going to feel like shit. Whereas if you eat chicken breast and rice, you're going to feel much better. So it makes it easier to choose the right stuff. Makes you healthier, obviously. Like, do I really need to explain why exercise makes you healthier? Obviously it does. Okay, eating healthy food. In my opinion, healthy food is defined as meat and eggs. I think most of the food that you eat should be meat and eggs. If you're a vegan or vegetarian or something for ethical reasons, I encourage you to not be, and to buy your meat and eggs from from local farms, which is pretty much possible anywhere in the United States. So the stuff that this gives you will make you like, it has everything kind of that you need. It'll make you fuller faster and for longer periods of time. It will reduce the tendency to binge, which people who are depressed, like generally a lot of them look to food for comfort. And if you're not looking to food, you're looking to like fucking cocaine or heroin or something. So it will reduce your desire to binge, which will improve your health and kind of peripherally improve your life and alleviate your depression. Also helps with energy in the gym. Obviously, you'll have more energy in the gym, allowing you to train harder, which will further alleviate your depression. If you're eating healthy food, you know, I don't know, I can't give like a personal example. It's just, it seems obvious to me that this is kind of a no-brainer. Cut out processed foods, obviously. Like, I wonder, do I actually need to like say these things to people? Do they not know this? It's possible, maybe. Here I have eat post-apocalyptic foods, but eat as much as you want. So post-apocalyptic foods, like if there was the apocalypse tomorrow, nuclear apocalypse, fucking zombie apocalypse, whatever, you want to eat the foods that would still exist. Okay, so that nothing that's made in a factory, nothing that comes in colorful packaging. Basically meat, eggs, vegetable, fruit, rice, fucking oats, like all that shit. Just eat that, you'll feel better. Limit your eating frequency. I say this a lot. Eat once a day to minimize your insulin spikes. When you eat multiple times throughout the day, not only are you more susceptible to binging because you are like constantly performing the act of eating and kind of, I guess, expecting to taste something good as opposed to eating to satisfy your hunger. So yeah, not only will that like reduce your insulin spikes, which will make it less likely that you'll actually get fat and store fat, but you'll also have more energy because eating makes you tired, which is a result of the insulin spikes. So when you only eat once a day, like for example, me, I started doing this in 2002 after I read The Warrior Diet, right? Where he says basically undereat during the day and overeat at night. He uses those words specifically to all you fucking skeletons out there. Nothing wrong with that as long as you are eating the right foods, which fortunately the author laid out in his book, which essentially is eating a salad or eating vegetables first, then eating protein, meat, animal protein, and then eating carbs afterwards if you're still hungry. That's definitely one way to do it. In my experience, it is better, let's just say, to just eat the vegetables and the protein together. I don't see why you wouldn't just do that. Yeah, being hungry gives you more energy, like, you know, straight up, like it does. Like all you people who think that you won't have any energy when you're not eating, just try it, right? You'd be surprised. Fasting, which is not eating once a day, but is technically limiting your eating frequency. Fasting will improve your mood as well, especially if you're a fat piece of shit. Like try fasting for a few days, watch how much better you feel, watch how your relationship with food changes. Also makes you more attractive, which will alleviate your depression. Also helps with any health issues that you might have. Like shit is healed super fast when you fast. No pun intended. Fasting makes you thinner, obviously. Quit your job. If you hate your job and it sucks, quit. Like why are you still there? Like I really honestly don't understand people who will stay in a job that they hate for years and let it bring them down and ruin their health and like make it easy for them to justify unhealthy habits. I don't understand it. I've never been like that I can think of. The one exception I guess would be the army, which you can't really just quit. I fucking hated the army. I was pretty healthy in the army, I have to say, because like I understood that exercise would bring me happiness. Thank God. Also I have had periods where I am like in the past, I haven't done this lately, where I'll go and I'll do like a 6-month sprint where I'll be working in retail and won't be able to exercise, and by the end of it I'm like a shell of my former person. I don't work out. I am very loose with what I eat. I lose all my muscle and my health goes to shit, but then I quit and I get everything back because I know what to focus on. Yeah, anyway, you can always find another job if you really hate this job. Try making money online, like just try it. Just start freelancing. I don't know. I think overall if you make money online, it depends on your job, fine. But this implies that you hate your job because I'm assuming you have some shitty office job and you're just like very unstimulated and you're bored out of your mind. I can't handle that. When I was in LA last time, I went to go work for a friend of mine, and I quit. Like, I actually went to go work for him like 3 times, and I quit after a day every single time. Just like, I can't sit in a fucking office all day. Like, there's nothing to do. I'm supposed to sit with these people all day and like do what? Like, there's actually nothing to do. So I just couldn't do it. Like, I don't want to waste my life fucking sitting in an office doing nothing. I don't know. Are you cool with that? Like, you want your like IKEA coffee table that badly that you're going to go waste your life in a job 50 hours a week? Okay, have fun. Or you can learn to love your job somehow. If you want to try that, I can't really give you specific recommendations on that, because I think if you're not doing what you love, if you're not doing something not only that you love, but that you feel personally invested in, I think it's pretty impossible to love what you do. Get a hobby. Get a hobby. Do you have a hobby? Video games are not a hobby. Sorry, watching YouTube is not a hobby. Watching TV is not a hobby. Get a hobby. Preferably one that can make you rich and famous. Okay, so I mentioned earlier my new hobby is this YouTube channel. Having a YouTube channel can make you rich and famous. It is a hobby of mine. I'm technically, am I doing it professionally because I am making a little bit of money from it? I guess you could make that argument. And I am technically devoting enough time to it to consider it full time. But at this stage, I will still call it a hobby because it's not something that I can depend on financially. So that's, I guess, my definition of a hobby. But honestly, just do something. Like, I really think that, and again, I can only use myself as an example. If I maintain this hobby for 5 years, I believe, I could be totally wrong, I know nothing, whatever. I actually believe that I will be rich and famous in 5 years. I believe that. If I keep up this pace in 5 years, I think it'll happen way before 5 years, by the way, but I'll give myself 5 years to do it because I know that it's worth putting in the time to actually do it. Because once, I've talked to a friend about this, and he was like, or I asked him, I was like, would you rather be rich or famous? And he's like, I'd rather be famous because you can't, what did he say? He's like, there's no broke famous people. You can debate that if you want, but if you're famous and you're still relevant, get a fucking publicist. You can get work anytime you want for anything. Just put your fucking face on something. Get a fucking Instagram account. People follow you for no reason other than they recognize you and know who you are. And if you spend 5 years of your life, like, all right, fine. Right now I make like, I don't know, I'm making a lot of videos lately. Put up like 6 a day, but 6 videos a day, that's 180 videos a month, right? Times 12. What is that? That's like, it's 12 times 8, say 1,000. It's almost 2,000 videos a year, okay? 2,000 videos a year where I'm like sitting, talking, exposing people to my personality. They're getting to know me, right? Around a breadth of topics, by the way. So like 5 years, that's 10,000 videos. Come on. You make 10,000 videos of you talking to the fucking camera over time, enough of those are going to get popular and you are going to make it. I'm not saying you have to do that, but do something, right? In my experience, when you do something that you are personally invested in because it helps you personally, not your fucking makeup brand, not your like, drop shipping site that sells matcha green tea, but like you as a person with your actual face on it and your name on it. In my opinion, that is the ultimate way to motivate yourself to actually work on something. Okay, nootropics. All right. The reason all of you clicked on this video, I'm sure, I'm gonna actually get into it like fucking 30 minutes in. Okay, Phenibut, number 1. Phenibut is an anti-anxiety drug that they developed in Russia in the 70s to keep astronauts calm as they went into space. It's currently unscheduled in the United States, which means you don't need a prescription. It's not I guess it is a drug technically, but you don't need a prescription for it. It's not illegal to buy and consume for personal use. So go nuts, have fun. It is illegal in Australia. But of course, Australia is known as a nanny state. They don't let people do anything really, but whatever, that's their thing. Phenibut is great for anxiety. The one problem, which is not actually a problem, people think it's a problem, but it's really not, in my opinion, is that they say Phenibut, if you take Phenibut, you will experience withdrawals if you take it for an extended period of time. This is not true. This is a myth. The only reason you would experience Phenibut withdrawals after taking it for an extended period of time is if you stop taking it suddenly. For example, let's say you take 1 gram a day, right? Which is what I take, by the way. I find it to be incredible for anxiety. You just feel happier and joke around with people, less anxious. Just like, It's kind of like Xanax, except it doesn't make you tired, and you don't get like unexplainable like bouts of anger for any reason. You're just super happy. It's amazing. Yeah, but like I take a gram a day. I'm out now. I should be getting more next week. But anyway, I take a gram a day. Let's say I take a gram a day every day for a month, and then I run out and I stop. Yeah, I'm going to feel like shit for a few days. But if I take a gram a day and I slowly taper my dose over the course of 10 days, where one day I take 900 milligrams, then 800, 700, 600, 500, so on and so forth, until I get down to 100 milligrams, like, do you think you're actually going to notice a difference between 900 and 1,000? No, you're not. It's not noticeable, really. Fine, maybe a little bit of a difference. You think you're going to experience fucking withdrawal symptoms from that? No, obviously not. And the difference between 100 and 0, do you really think you're going to experience that, like, withdrawal symptoms from that? You're not. Spoiler alert, you're not. So just fucking taper. Don't be stupid. Don't take like 5 grams a day because you're some fucking retarded teenager and you just want to like get high because you hate your life. Although I guess depressed people are more likely to do that. But don't do that. Take a gram a day. Fucking chill out. You'll be fine. Creatine. I love creatine. I love me some creatine because it gives you more energy in the gym. There are over, I think, 750 studies on creatine right now that like show like all the shit that they tested for when they tested it. Tons of benefits for it. It actually makes you more intelligent. You will perform better on tests if you take creatine. It's amazing. Everyone should take it. Like, if you don't take it, are you really taking your health seriously? I don't really think so. So fucking buy some. It's super cheap. You can buy a pound of creatine for like $15. It'll last you like months. Okay, there's no excuse for you to not buy it. Agmatine is also very good. It will kind of help stabilize your mood and give you like a very mellow, calm feeling. It's very subtle, not really super noticeable. It's also very good for the gym to kind of like make more blood flow to your muscles. Helps give you a nice pump and just makes your workouts more efficient. I love it. Nootropics is a drug that is similar to racetams. All these are legal, by the way. Okay, the only one that requires a prescription is modafinil, which we'll get to next. Nootropics is very good, helps you make you a little bit smarter, increases blood flow to your brain, kind of mimics the effect of piracetam, except with piracetam, you guys can look that up on your own. You need to take like 3 grams and it tastes like fucking ass. Nootropics, you need to take 10 milligrams, which is like a speck, honestly. And it's very powerful. It's amazing. Like, more energy, you're more intelligent, verbal fluency goes up. Like, you guys watch my videos, you think I'm a smart guy, I've got this big vocabulary. A lot of that is Wellbutrin and Nootropics, how these like words just like come to me without me actually having to think about it. Okay, so like, don't be fooled. Like, a lot of it is fucking chemically assisted. Modafinil. Modafinil. This is something called I want to say eugeroic, or I think eugeroic is what it's called. Basically, it prevents you from sleeping. They prescribe it for narcolepsy. Obviously, don't take it at night unless you're retarded. But basically, what I've noticed is that when you take it in the morning, it'll give you like good, clean energy for the whole day. And it's got a 12-hour half-life, so it will actually last you 12 hours. Modafinil, specifically, you need a prescription for that. There's also something called adrafinil, which you do not need a prescription for. Tastes like shit, and I always experience stomach discomfort when I would take it. There's also armodafinil, which is very good. It has a shorter half-life of about 6 hours, so you might need to take it twice throughout the day. Because if you take it, you will experience a little bit of a crash about 6 hours later. So the simple solution to that is just to take it twice. I personally think that modafinil is the best if you can get a prescription from an actual doctor, and go get it from a pharmacy. Don't order this Indian shit online from like Sun Pharma or whatever. The only pills that I have tried from any of these online pharmacies that have actually worked are the armodafinil pills, or I think it's also called Wakelert, W-A-K-L-E-R-T. Anyway, just figure out which ones are armodafinil and buy those. There's all kinds of different brands. Another one is called centrofenazine. Okay, centrofenazine is, as far as I recall, I want to say it allows your, or maybe it's like it allows your brain to utilize choline or acetylcholine or something more efficiently. And it's also been proven to extend the lifespan of rats by 30%. So that's fine, that's great and everything, but in my experience, the way that I used this, that I found beneficial to me, is that when I was living in LA, there was a period where I was working at home for a friend of mine, and I would wake up in the morning and I would take centrophenazine along with some other things as well. But I noticed that this was unique to centrophenazine, or Centro for short. When I would take it, I would like kind of put my head down and start working, and I would be so absorbed in what I was doing that I would kind of like lift my head up and 3 hours would have gone by. It's not quite like Adderall where you're like just hyper focused and fucking you got that adrenaline rush. It's not like that. You just get very immersed in whatever it is that you're doing. So I find it to be very effective for that. I also have that coming in the mail. Hopefully it'll be here in a couple of days. One word of warning, however, which is that as soon as you take your centrophenazine, you need to start working on something immediately. Okay, don't sit down and be like, oh, I'm just going to go on Reddit or Facebook or your social media of choice for like 5 minutes and then start. Do not do that, because whatever you focus on, you will be completely absorbed in it for the next few hours. So I remember many times I would sit down after taking Centro and I would like open Reddit for the reason that I just stated, and then I'd like lift my head 3 hours later and be like, oh my God, I can't believe it's 12 o'clock right now. Where did the time go? So keep that in mind. But these are all very good. I highly recommend all of them. Okay, let's talk about psychedelics. I don't know. I mean, I've taken a ton of mushrooms. I've taken a ton of LSD. I don't really notice like all of this shit. Like, okay, this might be good. I honestly think this is good for people who are like, for lack of a better explanation, square or prude or something, like who've never tried this shit. They're like anti-drugs, like never smoked weed. They've never experienced any sort of like altered state of mind other than alcohol. I think if you give them something like this, if their first experience with psychedelics is when they're an adult and they have a lot of like bullshit in their mind, that might help them get over it. But as like, you know, I'm just going to call it like it is, as a veteran fucking drug user, substance tester, whatever you want to call it, I didn't notice like, it doesn't really like give you like magical perspective. Maybe LSD, if you take like a very big dose of LSD and you trip like really hard, that will, you'll like definitely go to another place and fucking realize some shit for sure. But you need to take a big dose, like 200 milligrams is what I took. Actually, quick story. I don't know. I kind of want to tell this story now, but it's kind of long. I won't tell it now. But basically, I took LSD once when I was a teenager, and I took it in a place that I should not have taken it. Yet I managed to hide the fact that I had taken it the entire time and was totally fine. And I came out of that experience impressed with my own capability or ability, I guess, to perform under pressure. Talk about that in another video. Microdosing. I've microdosed shrooms. I've microdosed LSD. I don't know. You get a little bit of an energy boost, but like it's not like all this like BuzzFeed Silicon Valley shit is like not. It's overblown in my opinion to like make a clickbait title. It's hard to get. Not really worth it. There's better options out there. Testosterone replacement therapy. I've never tried this, so I can't really give you my personal experience on this. But from what I've read, a lot of people swear by this, and you know, a lot of your favorite like fitness YouTubers, they're on it. Improves your body composition, helps you burn fat, helps you build muscle, helps you recover faster, makes you more confident, improves your libido. There's like a ton of good effects that come with it. There are some negative side effects as well, such as like you can go bald, you grow hair in places that you wouldn't want to grow hair. I think it can change your bone structure if you take too much, maybe, like fucking fucks up your face. I'm not really sure. That might be growth hormone. I'm not sure. Makes your balls shrink because it'll crash your natural production of testosterone, which is not good. But as long as you're taking exogenous testosterone, I guess that's not so bad. And you know, I wrote here, it will add life to your years, but it might take years off your life. Okay, testosterone is kind of new. So there's not really any studies on people who have done TRT for an extended period of time. And the visible people who have done it, like let's say pro bodybuilders, they generally abuse a lot of drugs and do not live like the healthiest lifestyle. So they're not really, you can't really draw conclusions from them because they're just a section of the population that has fucking extreme habits to begin with. Get some sun. Fucking go outside. Jesus Christ. Like, you'd be surprised what a little sunlight will do if you're depressed. I noticed this many times, but the one time that comes to mind, in 2017, I went to go work in Australia for a year. And I was again, working in malls, selling hair products to people. And when you work in malls, I was there basically from, I would get there at like, 8:45 in the morning, and I would leave at like 6 basically. So that's pretty much daylight hours. So I was there 6 days a week. So I pretty much only get sun 1 day a week. If I decided to like leave my apartment and wasn't completely exhausted from the week to the point where I was literally just like lying in bed all day doing nothing. And I was very pale, and sure, fine. I had, was it only because I wasn't getting any sun? Probably not. But on my days off, I would notice, I guess, when I would get a lot of sun, I would feel amazing. Like it's you don't really realize how good the sun makes you feel until you are not in the sun for an extended period of time, in my opinion, at least. And also when I would quit these jobs, because I very frequently in my past would I go and like work for like 6 months inside, get no sun, and then quit and go fucking lie on some beach somewhere for 6 months and get my health back together. I would notice like the more sun I got, the better I felt. So like, I don't know, I think my skin looks pretty good. I'm 36 years old. I've put a lot of fucking hours in the sun. Don't have like, maybe like a couple lines here on my forehead, but compared to like how much sun I've gotten, like that's pretty damn good. If you don't like the beach, I don't know. If you don't like the beach, I think something's wrong with you. But if you don't like the beach, you don't want to go to the beach, you don't have a beach near you, just go in nature somewhere. Just go somewhere like out of the city. Go like on a hike or something. Just get away from the noise of the city. You'd be surprised how stressful the city actually is until you leave and are gone for a while. What should you do? Okay, so these are, I guess, my actionable steps if you actually want to take care of your problem. Ask your doctor about Wellbutrin. It's prescription, easily. It's you can't really abuse it, so it's not like asking for fucking Vicodin or something. Join a gym and start working out. Like, do I really need to tell you to do that? Like, fucking do it. Eat mostly meat and eggs and stop eating shit food. Again, obvious, isn't it? Like, this is what I don't understand with depressed people, right? It's like, you think on the one hand, oh, I can't stop being depressed. Yet, meanwhile, you're like smoking weed all day, eating fucking shit food. You're not working out. You're doing everything wrong. You're like, oh, why is my depression going away? Like, what do you expect? Eat once a day and fast occasionally. I think this is really good. You don't have to do this, but in my experience, it works for me. Quit your job if you hate it. Like, you have money saved. You like have skills that you can fucking apply somewhere else. Just fucking quit. Who cares? Get a hobby with a massive potential payoff. I'm a fan of a YouTube channel just because it allows you to express yourself any way that you want, and you can get famous and make a bunch of money within a couple of years if you do that. So like, why the fuck wouldn't you? Experiment with nootropics. All of those ones that I listed on that previous page, I think are very good. I highly recommend that you guys buy them. Get all of those for like, I don't know, $100-something. They're not cheap. I mean, they're not expensive. Like all of them for under $100 or around $100 maybe. Testosterone replacement therapy, if that works for you, also get some sun. And then the final slide, this is kind of a dick move, I think. Will you actually do anything? I don't think you will if you're depressed, right? If you actually suffer from depression, I don't think you'll take any of these steps, really, to be honest with you. Because I think that people who are depressed, they like being depressed, and they want to hold on to their creature comforts and their excuses and their reasons why they won't succeed. Because that's, statistically speaking, that's just most people. And if that's most people, that's probably you if you're watching this also. So like, I don't want to say, and of course this depends on who you are. Some people manage to snap themselves out of depression. It happens. I'm not saying if you're depressed, you'll be depressed forever. But if you don't, like who knows why that will happen? Like when will that happen, right? It seems to me to be like kind of random, where one day you're just like, okay, I'm done. And then you like almost wake up, you like turn yourself back on. And I wrote in here, like, have fun wasting your life. Nobody believes in you because you're pathetic. Like, those are mean things to say, fine. And I guess this is only for people like, okay, fine. Your fucking mom died last week and you're sad because of that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like, you're a loser. You fucking stay in bed all day. You don't do anything. You eat like shit and you're just doing nothing with your life. That's who this message is for. And guess what? People do think you're fucking pathetic, right? It doesn't matter how much potential you have. If you're fucking not trying to reach it, actually trying, you're pathetic and everybody thinks you're pathetic. So like, if you want that, just keep doing it. But there's plenty of room at the top, not like I'm at the top. I can't really talk, I guess, but nobody's really trying. Like, actually, most people are just content to fucking sit around and do nothing and like live their boring life, work their shitty job, as long as they can like go out on the weekend and get hammered and fucking eat McDonald's and watch Netflix and like browse Instagram in their spare time. That's what most people are content to do. If you are not satisfied with that type of life, you want something more, there's plenty of room because nobody's really doing it. And if people try to do it, they start doing it, they end up quitting because it's actually a lot of work. So anyway, that's my little spiel on how I cured my depression with nootropics, drugs, and lifestyle changes. If you guys like this video, I don't know, leave me a comment or something. I don't know. I kind of don't even know really if anybody will watch this. But I felt like making it. So yeah, peace.